Hello YouTube. Welcome to another video. Pardon the mess in the background. I don't really have an excuse. The mess is just there. I haven't been back from Japan for too long and just wanted to make a video on some of the work I was doing before I left and kind of put a dent in that, but getting back to everything, back to normal with the store, the eBay, everything back up and running, which is good. Thankfully, it didn't take too long to kind of get things back to normal. But yeah, I wanted to talk a little bit about promoted listing and doing so on eBay. So if you are unaware and it's not something that you've done before, just because you don't sell on eBay that much, but pretty sure everyone who's clicked on this video is listening in because they know what I'm talking about to talk about at least. Promoted listings, basically so let's say you sell on eBay regularly and you're paying a roughly 30%, it's like 12.9%, so 13% fee plus a transaction fee of roughly 30 pence per transaction too. So you're paying a 13% fee to eBay for everything that you sell on their platform. However, you can also use promoted listings to get your listing shared further across the platform. However, you then increase the fee that you're paying on top of your original fee to eBay for that kind of additional exposure for having more people view your items. So you can set this from a minimum. It used to be 1%, I believe, and now it's 2%. And you can set that from 2%. I don't know if there's a maximum limit, or there has to be one, but I don't know what it is. But I'm sure it goes well into the tens of percentage points, and it just means that eBay get an extra cut of that sale price, and it means you basically sell your items faster. So for a lot of people, it's they look at something like promoted listings and it's pretty much a no. You are already paying between 10 and 13%, and I say 13% because that includes your VAT within the UK, so that's the fee that I would be paying, inclusive of tax. So yeah, you're paying 13%, which is a big chunk of your sale price already. So why would I pay eBay more just to sell my item faster? I'm maybe not in a rush to sell it. Maybe I have a completely unique item that I have a monopoly of that on the market. So you either buy my item or you don't, or maybe I'm already the cheapest item on the market already, or I'm pretty much matching that. So why on earth would I promote my listings and give eBay a larger cut of that, meaning I get even less profit, even though my price is already a competitive price? So there's a number of reasons why you wouldn't bother touching promoted listings, and I kind of would say the majority of the time it depends sometimes it just depends what kind of mood I'm in. If I get home and sales are quiet and I'm just like, no, I need to move and shift inventory, promoted listings is one way of doing that. There are a few other ways of doing it. I can obviously just list more, I can reduce prices, but then I can also, on top of that, promote some of the listings that I want to sell. So say I buy a bunch of promos in the hundreds, get a really good deal on that, already brings the price down per unit, and then it's just a matter of selling those units over time. I've done this many a time where I've had I bought 100, 200, 300 promos, sealed, ancient, new kind of promos, and I just as I said, get them at good rate because I'm buying in bulk, of course, and then I list them at a decent price, already competitive price, and then I just shoot up that promoted listing just to get those numbers, those views, everything up, and it's selling faster. And my experience has been from years of selling on eBay is that you do get an increase in sales. Generally, this is because your price is at least still somewhat competitive, but also you can sell cards and anything if you're promoting them, because you'll just sometimes get lazy buyers who might not necessarily check the lowest listing. Not every, there's a reason why the default sort parameter on eBay is not by price, lowest price, and it is by best match, for example. So Yeah, you don't there's kind of, I guess, various ways of looking at it when it comes to whether or not you should promote your listings or not, but generally, yes, they do increase the rate at which you make the sales, and obviously you're sacrificing another portion of your profit in order to do that. So I guess the question is it worth it? Again, when I say it depends on the kind of mood I'm in, it really just, if I'm 1 month, I just want to get a lot of inventory out. There's months, like for example, now I've just come back from my trip, and it's been mentioned before by other people that they don't necessarily see what I've observed. And what I have observed is when, like for example, I close my store for a few weeks, it does take some time. There is a bit of lag getting that traction up and things back to normal. Really, really dislike it when I've got big things going on sporadically, because it just means that it feels like at least things slow down, and then I have to kind of restart things, and they slow down, and then I have to restart things and they slow down, or they stop, and then I'm having to restart again and again and again. And I feel like that's a good point for me to then look at promoted listings, get a lot of those views up, get a lot of people clicking on my profile, looking at all of my listings, and hopefully that translating into an increase in sales. Again, that's something people debate. I'm sure someone's done something. I'm sure you can find something on Reddit where someone has said, okay, well, my store was on holiday mode. But generally, that's been my impression when I put my store on holiday mode. When I'm away for some time or I close my store, I do notice that lag in getting sales back to normal. Maybe something I will keep a better eye on next time, so I can actually show some numbers for it. But generally, as I said, that's what I've observed. And so promoted listings, as I said, I guess the main point is that it fulfills that kind of gap where you've maybe lost a lot of traction based on what you are doing. So as I mentioned, you can look at it in a few ways, where you have a listing at a set price, and it may not be the most competitive price on the market, but what you can do is promote that listing further, and you just have more eyes on it. It's just higher up in the search than the other items that might be cheaper, which means you those lazy buyers that come, they might just buy your item. And you've obviously got to balance that with the fact that if you are paying more fees, it's still got to be more than if you were just selling at that lower price without the promotion, right? There's no point having an item that's 3% higher than the lowest bin, but promoting at 5%. You may as well just reduce the price to be more competitive, and then not bother with the promotion completely. So what I would say, or what I have done historically, is just list all my items, and only the ones where I have a large amount of stock, those would be the ones that I promote. So as I gave a few examples of some sealed promos, that kind of thing. Or for example, I pick up a lot of like certain Pikachu cards, certain Charizard, certain popular Pokemon, and I just happen to pick up a large number of them, or I buy a collection, or whatever it might be when I have a large number of those items. So what I actually used to do is I used to sort my eBay by quantity, and anything above, I think it was either like 5 or 8 in terms of quantity, I would highlight all of those, edit those to be promoted listings, and I would vary that promotion based on the number of items that I would have. So for example, anything where I had like 100 items, I'd be promoting at like 5 to 8%, even 10% if I really wanted to get rid of something. Or I would, on the other hand, I would anything from like 5 to 50 or 5 to 10, it would be like a couple of percent. Anything from like 10 to 50 would be like 8, 7, 6%. Basically, I would vary it based on the actual quantity I had. There was no real rule, no real fast and hard rule that I would follow. It'd just be basically, okay, I have a lot more of this than I have of this, so I'm going to promote this more. Nothing exceptional, crazy, well thought out, absolutely not. And the things that the items I was promoting more would sell more, simple as. And there's no reason for eBay not to fulfill this, because when that item sells, they get more of a cut. So it's worthwhile for them to actually push that more and have someone have someone buy that. If you're promoting an item and someone else is not promoting an item, eBay want that promoted item to sell more because it just means more money for them. Even if you are selling at the same price, it still means they're taking a higher cut. So the kind of, I guess, the results speak for themselves when it comes to that. And as I said, historically, that's what I've noticed. But one thing that I have experimented with in the last month or two, and I say month or two, I've been away for the last month almost, so a few weeks. So that didn't really count, but probably the month or two before then is I removed all of those high, those high promoted listings, and basically promoted absolutely everything I had across the board at just over 2%. The reason being just over 2% is a lot of people promote at 2% because it's the lowest number. It means you effectively are getting more exposure and should be at the top of like a normal search, but you're paying the minimum cost. What it effectively means is sometimes eBay is promoting your listings and sometimes they're not. If you're promoting something at 8 or 9 or 10% or even more, that's basically getting pushed to the top of pretty much every search list if it is like the highest if it is the highest promoted listing. This isn't as effective in very, very saturated markets, and Pokemon isn't necessarily that, but for specific cards it certainly can be. So for example, if you're selling charger, iPhone charger cable, there's tens of thousands of those listings. Every single one of the top listings is a promoted listing, and they're all promoting out a few, whatever many percent, and they're just vying to get that visibility. With something like that, you're just going to click on, find the cheapest one most likely, or just the one that you like the most. What I tend to do personally is just find one that's as close to being either run by a company that's UK based, not China based, not because I have any particular issue with them, but I would rather support a company run in the UK, and then I make sure to check that they're like a proper company based in the UK. I want to support that company more than I want to support a random Chinese company, no offense to anyone. So I will go out and even if it's a little bit more, I'm fortunate, I'm in a fortunate position where I can afford a little bit more when it comes to those kind of things, so I like to as I said, support other businesses, other UK-based businesses there. I would hope people do a similar thing for me, but obviously that's far from being a requirement. Whereas with Pokemon, you have a list of things you want to buy, and then you want to make sure that they're all in good condition. So you're not typing in mint condition iPhone charger cable, maybe new, maybe sealed. But with Pokemon, obviously it's a bit different. You've obviously got to consider the condition to cost as well. So for example, one thing that I would suggest to people is, I list everything as mint, near mint, or mostly mint cards. And I do that just because there's a few that I've been burnt on before where I've sold a card that I thought was mint and there's a couple of nicks and people are like, oh, it's not. So I learned quite quickly to put mint or near mint just to protect yourself a little bit there. But what I do with a card that I know is definitely near mint, rather than being somewhere in between or mint condition, is I would just list it as being near mint because I know there's nicks on the card and I want to be as accurate and precise as possible. I use default pictures. I use set list pictures. I don't even use my own pictures, especially when majority of my listings of multiple have multiple quantities, multiple items. So I use stock photos. So I want to be as precise as possible as I can when I'm selling items in regards to their condition. But the nice thing with like near mint condition cards, for example, is that they will sell even if they're like 50p lower than a mint condition card, which is great because the condition is, as I said, I really don't mind doing that. The annoying thing is just creating the other, an extra listing, because if I've got near mint and mint, if I've already got a mint condition listing for a specific card and then I have a near mint version of that card, I'm not gonna include that most likely. I would create an extra listing, and that's a bit of a pain. But generally, even if you put like 50 or 30p cheaper, people will buy it. Why did they buy it? Because it's just suddenly the cheapest one on the market, and it's still in near mint condition, and the person second cheapest is mint or near mint. And obviously, it takes some time to get, I guess, know what you're doing, and not just that, have people who know how you kind of I guess grade and I guess just show condition and define condition when you're selling cards. I've got plenty of people who message me all the time, hey, I like shopping with you because whenever I buy those mint condition cards, they're actually mint, and I shop with other people and they're not, and then just say, oh, the generic messages a lot of the time with bestseller on eBay, blah blah blah. But I have people messaging me that just because they know when I say the card will be this condition. And it does hopefully arrive in that condition. I do make mistakes like anyone else does, so that also does happen, but I deal with them pretty swiftly. I know I've gone off on a bit of a rant, but to kind of bring this back to the discussion and what we're talking about. So a lot of the time, just being the cheapest item means you're gonna sell regardless of how much you are pumping that listing and promoting that listing. So as I mentioned, I had decided basically to promote absolutely everything just over 2%. So it was 2.2%, which means effectively if anyone clicks on an item of mine via a promoted advert on the search page, I'm paying 15.1%. So 15% fees, and then of course I've got my postage on top as well. It's not an insignificant amount. Like, it does make a difference, especially in trading cards, and if you're like focused on sealed product like the majority of like kind of big Pokemon stores are. I mean, actually, I wouldn't say that's true. I'm just saying they sell a lot of sealed product because the margins are already so poor. That 2% does make a big difference. I'm glad I stay away, or I don't deal in that much sealed product, just because I don't want to deal with those kinds of margins. I want to make my life a little bit easier and not have to worry about getting back to £10,000 that I just spent on a few cases of this particular set. It's a lot of work that I don't wish to dive into too much. But yeah, so for me then, I look at it that way. Basically, my fees are going to be 15%. It's interesting, however, when I say that, because everything, as I said, is listed at 2.2%, but people still do organically come across your items, and that's the difference between promoting at 2.2% or 2% and promoting at 8%. When I was promoting those 100 quantity items that I had at 8%, every single sale would basically be a promoted sale, whereas now I'd probably say it's about 50-50. Yeah, I'd say 50% sales seem to be via promoted listing and 50% not. So kind of brings that average promotion down to like 1.1%. At least that's what I tell myself in my head right now. Of course, the reality is a lot of those sales would obviously happen would happen organically, and I wouldn't be paying anything beyond that 13%. But at the same time, you're getting a lot of views, a lot of traction based on those promoted listings, and it just means you're getting more eyes. And I did notice generally over the course of the month or so that I did have everything promoted, that I did sell more compared to the previous month. Again, not enough data to fully flesh that out and quantify everything, which is why I'm not sat here with a presentation and a list of numbers to say this is how much this affected that. Instead, I've had too much going on in my own life to have been able to do that over the last few months. So something if enough people are interested in that, I would create a video on in the future. But my impression was I was getting more impressions, and then obviously naturally more sales. You are getting a lot of impressions that are meaningless just because someone might just type in Pokemon cards and your thing might get promoted. And when I am promoting 600, 700, 800 listings, I'm probably about 650 right now, so a lot of listings are going to appear in a lot of searches. But again, it was nice to see that there was still a decent number of organic sales where I'm still just paying the normal amount. One caveat I wanted to add to that was in the UK, eBay does operate a little bit differently. So for those watching in the US, you're used to kind of accepting of that 13, it's 10% plus sales tax usually when purchasing off eBay in the US. And then you've obviously got your kind of local fee tax laws and all that kind of stuff. But it's between like 10 and 30% is generally the outcome of that, as far as I'm aware. What eBay do in the UK a lot, and they offer to most people, is they offer them 80% off selling fees, and that's why people in the UK, like, it's a lot more of a race to the bottom kind of scenario from what I've seen and experienced, just because people are like, oh well, I'm only effectively paying 3% fees, so I'm just going to undercut you, not by a couple of quid, I'm going to undercut you by 20 quid just because I'm paying no fees, not thinking, well, you're selling it for a lot lower, so any potential benefit you get from paying lower fees is basically wiped out by the fact that you're reducing the price. It does obviously mean that they can sell the item faster, but I don't think the average person thinking about that. The average person's like, oh, I just need to get rid of this crap, eBay's offered me 8% off fees, so I'm going to do that. And the reason why I mention that is because, as someone who doesn't have the opportunity to do that because I am a business seller, when I'm selling on eBay, that's the kind of person I want to be above in the listings, right? Because they're the person that's the main person who's undercutting my price, if not for like similar competing stores, but like what I do when I see a similar store to mine being cheaper than mine, I basically maybe match their price and maybe go 5 pence cheaper than they do. And again, I'm not trying to race to the bottom. I'd rather keep my price high if they're happy to keep their price higher, just because eventually their cards will sell. I'm in no rush to sell. As long as my numbers and my cash flow is pretty steady, that's fine by me. Whereas this person who's got 80% off fees, they're like, well, I don't really give a damn, so I'm going to come and list it £10 cheaper than all these other stores who do this for a living, right? Or, well, I don't do it for a living, of course, but do it as a business. So that's the kind of persona, that's the person I am trying to be, and that's probably why I think promoted listings are more effective for me and have been, with, even if it's just this 2%. I don't think that person is going to be thinking about promoted listings. They're already the cheapest person, right? And what I'm doing, I might be a little bit more expensive than them, but I'm promoting all of my listings, so I'm hoping to appear above them. I'm also a much bigger seller than they are. I have a lot more feedback than they have. I have 100% feedback. I have a much bigger audience that know who I am. I'm not saying I'm bloody Tom Cruise and anything like that, but there's people who specifically shop at my shop on eBay on my website because they know what they're going to get when they're shopping from me. So that's kind of where I think promoted listings becomes really useful. But just to say, I'm probably just going to continue with this experiment up until Christmas, maybe, just to see. I know it's annoying, like if I had the foresight or the time, whatever, it'd be like 1 year basically run list with promoted listings, and then 1 year without, and see and compare the two. But it's it's hard to do that. Naturally, the sales are expected to increase up towards Christmas, and then obviously there's the post-Christmas lull, and I don't want to conflate that, with, oh well, I promoted listings before and not after. But I think generally there's a good benefit to me promoting those listings and just having more cash flow, more cards in and more cards out. Don't think it's necessarily bad for business, even if eBay are taking a couple more % from me in that process. So that's a lot of what I wanted to kind of discuss in here. If you've done anything similar, or you just thought genuinely this was interesting to hear about, please let me know in the comments. Again, if there's a lot of interest, I want to make a proper video detailing it a little bit more, using my eBay analytics. Generally, the eBay Terapeak insights and analytics are pretty good. It's a really nice place to start if you're not doing any advanced analytics, and they do a lot of the stuff for you, which is quite nice, which is always helpful. So thank you for checking out the video. Hopefully you did enjoy what I spoke about. If you did enjoy, please leave a like, and if you're not subscribed already, please do so. I would really appreciate it. Otherwise, hopefully I will catch you on the next one.